everyone. Thank you all. I've memorised my slides for this morning and we're just going to freestyle if we need to. Are we all right with that? And Joel's here, so nothing can go wrong. So awesome. Thanks again for having me this morning. This is a smaller, more intimate group. So I wanted to keep this session a little bit more practical, a little bit more workshop-y style, and actually have you leave with something of value that you can just implement straight away on your LinkedIn profile. Would that be okay? Yeah. All right, awesome. So we're going to talk about how to make your LinkedIn profile profitable, okay? There's a very big difference on LinkedIn between having a good profile that our friends, our peers, our colleagues can have a look at and go, oh, look at you, John, amazing. Look at all your experience and expertise. Look at all the skills you've built. That's awesome. Very big difference between having that as your profile and then having a profile that people land on and they're compelled to take that next action to learn more about you and potentially want to work with you. So does anyone here in the room feel like sometimes they fit in the good profile category where you've heard like, hey, you've got a really nice profile, really good? And so that's sort of the starting point for most people. And so what we want to do today is we actually want to take your profile to be what I call a world-class LinkedIn profile, what's best practice of what's happening right now, but also for the purposes of building your business and building your practice as well. All right? So when it comes to profiles, one of the things that I think is a really important sort of anchor for us in this session is Einstein himself said it. All right? If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Okay? So sometimes what I find is that when we are a room full of people like this who have a very high level of expertise, have a lot of years of experience, have a great track record behind you, a couple of problems come up. Sometimes we can just overcomplicate things because we kind of want to pack all of that in. You know, it's very hard to kind of dilute 30 years, 40 years, 20 years experience into sort of one page and a certain amount of word characters. So sometimes we feel like it's a little bit hard to kind of narrow the focus and know what to include and what not to include. The other problem that I see for, in particular very experienced groups is often when we're in it and we're in our world and we've just been doing our day-to-day, things to us are very simple, whereas to other people, they come across as complex. So we see this come up a lot of times where we might use certain industry jargon or things like that when we're talking just naturally in our day-to-day, right? So if we use certain acronyms within our business or we use certain acronyms within our industry, that wholly makes sense to us. Like we read that and we instantly know what it is. And then to someone brand new who's maybe outside of that industry, doesn't have that context, it makes their brain tick over a little bit more. Right? So even if there's a base level of understanding, they have to work harder to actually get the message. Is this making sense so far? Yep. So the big idea here is we want to take all the experience, all the skills, all of the knowledge that we have and make it very, very simple to translate so that someone else who has never ever come across us before, who doesn't have the context of our background, can instantly get what we do and is instantly compelled to reach out. Would that be okay? Beautiful. All right. So we talked a little bit yesterday around what our LinkedIn profile is not, right? It's not a copy and paste of your CV. That was good enough in 2016 on LinkedIn. To be quite frank, it's just not going to cut it these days. The platform has moved, the way people are using the platform has moved, and so what we're seeing more so now on the platform is more of a sales landing page when it comes to your profile. So I'm talking about your personal profile here. And the same way that you would have someone that jumps onto your website or jumps onto a landing page, let's just say you were selling a registration to an upcoming webinar and they jumped onto that page. That page has a purpose to guide that person to A, know that they're in the right place, B, know who it's not for, right? So we try and deter the wrong people, have some level of trust, proof, credibility along the way. So they go, it answers the question like, why should I listen to you? Why should I attend this? What's in it for me? And there's a really clear call to action at the end of like, all right, I know all of this now. What do I actually do? All right, so we want our profiles to kind of think about that as a framework and turning them in from a static CV or a static resume with a list of your fabulous experience to then going, okay, what's in it for my audience? Who are the people I'm actually there to serve? What do they need to hear from me in order to go, I'm in the right place and I want to take that next step? All right, so I want to do a quick little exercise now just to jot down a couple of different ideas, because the big question I have for you is, how do we actually know that our LinkedIn profile is working? What are some of the things that we might look for to go, our LinkedIn profile is working? So I'm just going to throw it up to the room, shout out some ideas. What do we think? Yep.
People are reaching out to you?
Yep. Yep. So we've got some, let's just call it inbound. Oh, I write like a doctor. So there you go. Inbound inquiries, inbound reach outs. What else?
Shares, likes, comments.
Yep. So people might share your profile. People might like it. So this would be more sort of around the content, but like liking your profile would be sort of sharing it, interacting with it. Yep.
The right kind of people. All those things.
Yes. So we would call them, in LinkedIn language, it's called a profile viewer. Does anyone know that when you see on your LinkedIn who's viewed your profile? Yep. Perfect. Profile views. Yep.
I think, as Emma said, it's the right people.
Yes.
It's not just the people who want to tell people.
Yes. That's it. So, yeah.
And also post impressions.
Impressions, yep. Because what's the first thing that someone does if they see your content and they kind of resonate with your content? What do you think the first instinct might be? Yeah, jump onto your profile. It's right there, it's clickable, that's what they do. Yep, so profile impressions. Anything else?
Website traffic, if you've got a link from your profile to your website.
Yep. So exactly, this could be website. It could also be other maybe specific landing pages that you've got tracking pixels and things to as well. So maybe it's downloading a lead magnet, maybe it's a webinar registration, those sorts of things. But you can, yeah, appointment booking as well. So let's just call that bookings. So people directly booking a meeting, coffee chat, discovery call, something of that nature. Yep. Anything else, Andrew?
So just, there is an SSI score
Yes.
that they have that
Yep.
does guide you roughly in terms of what works and what doesn't work in there with the algorithm. So,
Great. So for context for the room, are you comfortable to explain what that is, the SSI?
I mean, my score's around 80%, which means that I've got most bases covered with my LinkedIn profile. And it covers how you deal with people, how often you interact with people. It covers a whole lot of areas that are going to enable you to get a better outcome from them.
Yeah, so the SSI, for those that haven't come across it, is the Social Selling Index on LinkedIn. Social Selling Index. Yeah. So that is something that LinkedIn brought out a few years ago, and essentially from LinkedIn's point of view, they use it to kind of gamify things in their own sense, because naturally, as humans, what do we want to have? A high score. So they use that to show like your activity and your interactions on LinkedIn as well. So it is a way that you can kind of benchmark yourself against others. I have seen a trend on, this was very popular a few years ago, it's sort of less popular now, but people still use it. So I would definitely use it as like a personal reference point, as the starting point, and then as you see your profile grow, you can see improvements there as well. Yep, so thank you, Andrew, for bringing that up. Anything else, or do we feel like we've covered it? Profiles. Yep.
Recommendations or recognition from others?
Yeah. Yep. Recommendations. Okay, anything else? I think we've pretty well covered it. Yep. So the big idea here is we've got a couple of key actions that people can take. And the key actions is that the other person is taking those actions, right? So the big idea is that we want to make sure that our profile is doing the heavy lifting. The way I look at profiles that are working is, do we have inbound inquiries coming through, but are they the right inbound inquiries as well? So it's a mix of volume, but also the quality of those inquiries coming through. So, profile views at the start, particularly if you're going from never showing up on LinkedIn or never having much activity to then getting started, naturally you're going to have a little bit of a spike in your activity as well, which is always a good thing for momentum. And then over time we want to really start tracking and go, okay, out of the last 90 days, out of these people, who have been the ones that are interacting the most, and that kind of informs your direction. All right, making sense so far? Beautiful. So I think also the thing that people miss as well is the bookings. Now, in any given time in our market, we know that most people aren't ready to make a decision maybe right then and there. Probably around 3% of people at any given time in the market have budget, time, authority, everything that they need to make that decision. You know those people where you like interact on LinkedIn for the first time and they say something like, I was just thinking of that and like I got your message or I saw your profile and it was like this divine intervention had happened and everything's just sort of clicking into place, you know. It's great if you work with clients that love to manifest because you can always say, you manifested this is great. But that's what kind of happens, right? That's usually about 3% of people. Now the problem is most people only focus and target those 3%, but actually what we want our profile to do is look at the 97% of people who are checking you out, are stalking you, whether you like it or not, people are stalking you, and they are kind of like auditioning you a little bit, you know, just to see over time if this is someone that I can trust. And then it's usually an external factor in the market. So maybe they've had something that's happened with their team that's caused a big disruption. And they're like, you know what, I don't know how to solve this problem. I really need some support in the business. And that kind of triggers them to go, you know, therefore I need to look at working with a mentor. So that could be something that's external. And we have no control over those things that happen, but we have control about being the person that is there ready to capture that market when they're looking for that solution. All right. So I want to take you through 7 big profile mistakes that I see, and then we're going to get into some practical stuff. Is that cool? Awesome. Number 1. Sorry, Trish. I don't know if anyone knows Trish. I did try and make her a bit anonymous, but the job title profile. Who here is guilty in the room of having their job title and that's it in their headline? Yep, it's okay. It's a safe space. It is one of those things that's just normal and natural to do, right? It is something that LinkedIn gives you the little drop down. You can select like what you do, keywords, those sorts of things. Like that's the easy way. So that's absolutely fine. But what we're missing out here is that LinkedIn actually gives you 220 characters in your headline. And the way that LinkedIn works is it's very heavily SEO and kind of keyword orientated. So if we just have our job title, we're making LinkedIn's job very, very hard for it to put us in front of the right people automatically in the search results and in other areas when we're talking about our content and other things that it's linked with. And this is even more important now because in the world of AI robots that we're operating in, we want to make friends with the robots. And when we're sharing our content and some of the things we talked about yesterday, when we're very specific, we're speaking to the people, we're speaking to their champagne problems, we understand exactly what we're talking about, LinkedIn and all their AI robots, they actually go back and they scan your profile to make sure that they can actually identify some keywords in your profile that match what you're speaking about publicly in your content. And that is new. That's something that's happened in the last 12 months or so of LinkedIn. And so it's really important that if we're talking about leadership or we're talking about team culture or whatever it is that's your kind of specialty area, we want to lead with that in our headline. Now, the most important section is this section here, right, which is the first sort of 3 or 4 keywords. Because has anyone done a search on LinkedIn where you just type in someone's name and you just see everyone sort of in a row? Yeah. Now, if we have business coach, business coach, business coach, business coach, 6 in a row, it's hard to stand out, right? Would we agree? So the key is that in those first 3 or 4 characters, if we can do something that's a little bit different, that helps you to stand out, it doesn't miss those keywords because we can put them in a little bit later, that's where we start to win, all right? So an example would be having what I call a doing statement, which is the first part of your profile. So rather than just talking about your title and assuming everyone knows what that means and what you do, It's actually talking about something that's a little bit more action orientated. It's a little bit more like of a verb or a doing statement. So it might be, like I work with a CFO at the moment, so it might be like helping, SaaS companies 10x their revenue in the next 12 months. Like that's sort of a tagline, or that's the results or an outcome focused statement that would separate him from every other CFO out there. All right, I can see a few nods. Perfect. So just park that for a minute because we're going to come back to that one. Writing for peers, not buyers. Who here has nice friends in the room? I would imagine everyone's hand should go up, right? We're a friendly, nice bunch. And I don't know about you, but my friends like to encourage the things that I do in business. They like to give me positive feedback. They like to tell me I'm doing a good job, even if they might think otherwise, because they're nice and they're your friends. And so what can happen sometimes is it's really important of like who you get the feedback from with your profile. I had a client, Lisa, who works in the governance space, and one of the challenges that she had was she was attracting business owners, and that was her target market, but she wasn't attracting the business owners at the level that she could support, right? Because they didn't need the governance structure and other things that she does. And so she was really frustrated because she said, I've had so many people look at my profile. I've had, even competitors have a look. I've had colleagues, I've had all of these people have a look at my profile and they all tell me it's great. And I said, awesome. But does your bank account reflect it? She said, no. I said, okay. So let's think about it differently. Let's make some changes. And so we did, and we ended up shifting it a little bit, which made it speak directly to the market and the level of business that she was trying to attract very specifically. Within the next 24 hours, you can call this a fluke if you like, but she had someone that reached out to her. They naturally had a conversation about working together. That ended up being a $50,000 project and consulting project for her. All from a few changes to the profile to actually just elevate it and speak to the right person, all right? So we want to speak to our ideal clients. We want to enter the conversation that they're already having in their minds, right? That is the goal with your profile. The other mistake I see is we can confuse credibility for complexity. So this is a little bit of what I was alluding to before. Unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, in marketing and in business, people don't care about you yet. They care about their problems first, right? They care about their problems before they care about you, because unless you're there to solve their problems, it's like, okay, I'm just going to get on with my day because that's my focus and that's what I'm trying to solve, right? And so we want to make it as simple and easy for people to grasp what we do and how we're different. And often that the case is that it might be something very specific or industry related that you do that's different to someone else. It might not necessarily be a ton of letters behind your name that people gravitate towards, but it may be a little bit more of the story around your experiences and your unique selling point in that arena. Is that cool?
So sorry.
That's all right. If anyone wants to...
Silent, but my head has a superpower to override, I swear to God.
Well, if anyone wants a little dance break, you can feel free to have a little dance break. That's cool. Yeah, you're fine. So this is what we're sort of talking about, like with the jargon and things like that. I know a guy, Ed Dale, who's very much in the copywriting space. And so one of the examples that he gave with this was when you actually use the language of your clients and very specific, it puts you in a whole different category. So like he gives the example of if you're a photographer and you're saying, I can work with everyone, I'm happy to shoot events, right? That's your big thing. Most photographers would say, I can do any events, right? Conferences, weddings, you name it, I can do it. But it's very, very different to go out there and say, like, I will help you with your event versus I will help you with your wedding because I'm a specialist in weddings, right? And so when he was speaking in that particular example, it's like, yes, you can help everyone. Of course, you've got the skill set too. But where does your background really align in terms of who are the right fit for you? And maybe, in this context, maybe you've got a board and maybe there's one seat on your board that you're trying to fill. And maybe it's in a non-competing arena, or maybe it's in a particular industry, maybe it's a particular level of business. You can actually adapt your profile and you can actually start speaking the language of that particular client until you land them on your board. Yeah, question?
Question. Is it possible, how does it affect positively or negatively if you change that wording, let's say, every 2 weeks? Just curious about, for example, if you're searching a specific seat for a board and then you get it, and then you change it, and then you get it, and then you change it.
Yeah,
What happens?
yeah. So that's sort of the extreme case, an example. That might be if you're like filling a couple of the last spots, in particular for the board. I always say you want to make sure you've got enough data to make decisions. So usually around 3 months is enough data to allow your profile to come through, see what profile viewers you're having, and then make decisions based on that data as well. So if you chop and change every week, not as many people are going to see those changes, and it can be very much a timing thing of like when they land on your profile. So you can definitely have like the bones of your profile there. But one thing that I know a lot of people do that's very successful is you might just change the top banner of your profile, or you might just change the headline, right? Because it's not about rewriting and redoing your whole profile every 2 weeks, but it's about calling out the right people right up front. So that's something that you could do. But the big idea here is we want to speak the language of our market, speak the language of our clients, of who we're trying to attract, not what we think we need to say on our profile, all right? Which kind of brings me to this section as well, and this is the big one. Counterintuitively, your about section, or it used to be called your summary, has actually nothing to do with you. All right? Nothing to do with you, and everything to do with the client you're trying to speak to. All right? So this framework follows the Connect, Credibility and Contact framework as well that we spoke about yesterday. So I do have, welcome to screenshot these slides. This is the Connect part up top. So it's really about, in that first line, in that first hook, I don't talk about myself at all. I talk about the problems that my clients are facing. Because we want to hook them in, because they don't care about us yet. They only care about their problems at the start. Would we agree? Yeah. So you might want to write this down. I want you to think about what is the big problem? And I know in business there are many problems that we're solving all simultaneously at once. But is there a common thread, or is there a common problem that the business owners that you're trying to attract have, right? And to use the example of Leo when we're talking about champagne problems yesterday, if we're looking at business owners who are longer in their tenure of business and have been in business for 10 or 20 years, they're not worried about the problems that a startup business less than $1 million had, right? They're looking at succession planning, they're looking at, team culture, they're looking at all of these different things that, a startup business is like, where's the money, right? And obviously that's still important at that level, but not as important when you start to mature. So it's thinking about what are the top of mind problems. And you've probably heard this phrase before around what are they thinking about that's keeping them up at night, awake, they can't go to sleep, and they're just replaying that again and again and again in their heads, all right? There's I don't know where this saying originated from, probably the internet, so we know it's true. But there's a saying that, if you can articulate your market's problems and your client's problems better than they know it even themselves, they automatically attribute you as the solution to their problems. And so this is what your first part of your profile is. It lets them know that they're instantly in the right place, all right? And we build that human connection, all right? Next, when we talk about the credibility, one of the easiest ways that you can do this is just sharing a little bit about your story. So rather than listing just dot form like we would on a resume, all of our experience, all of our skills, all of our qualifications, the question you want to ask yourself is, what are the breadcrumbs that led me to the work that I'm doing now? So Steve Jobs said this best. He said, you can't connect the dots looking forward, but you can connect them looking back. So what are those little connection points along your career, along your journey, that would mean that someone that is coming to you from a business arena, they would work with you over anyone else because of your story, because of your experience. All right, so it might be that you have done so much work overseas and you know international markets really well, and so naturally if there's someone that is coming to you and they're wanting to expand internationally, you're the obvious choice, right? Because they can connect your experience to the problems that they're trying to solve. All right, so that's what we want to do, is we want to think about credibility, but wrap it into a story. And then this is the contact part at the end. So remember yesterday where I was saying, give people permission, make it really obvious, right? 2 options, get in touch. Message me on LinkedIn, right? Why do we think I might have that up first? Message me on LinkedIn. Any ideas? Already there. Less friction. Easiest option. Less friction, no thinking. I'm already on the platform. Send me a message. If you don't, people will assume that, oh, maybe they don't respond. Like maybe they're just so busy. Maybe they've got all these things going on, right? And they won't take that effort. So instruct them like you would a 5-year-old of what you want them to do. And then you can also have here some of the keywords. So you'll see here at the bottom, if you read this, it doesn't actually really make sense as like a full story or a sentence, but this is strategic to make sure that the keywords that you need in your profile are in there for LinkedIn when it scans it, so that you start ranking higher in the search results for those keywords. All right, so this is where, if you're tempted to put something in your headline, like business coaching, you can put it down below and it's gonna have the same effect. But it means there's a human interacting on your profile. You're gonna be standing out up the top when you've got something different in your headline. Okay?
Can I just understand where this is?
Yes, so this is just chunked down. So we've got our about section on LinkedIn, and I've just chunked it into 3 chunks. So it actually reads all in the one spot, but just for the purposes of the slides, I've sort of chunked it into 3 for you. Yep, you're welcome.
So maybe just on that,
Mhm.
maybe you're going to cover this later, so if you are,
It's okay.
answer. You know, the whole concept of us getting the right viewer, the right leads,
Mm-hmm.
the thing around being open to anybody, we all get spammed with, let me help you with SEO, blah, blah. I want to sell to you
Yeah.
messages without actually knowing the person
Yeah.
all the time. Do we not open ourselves up to, you know, particularly if you've got book a time with me here,
Mhm.
I switched it off because I was just getting random people I didn't want to meet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So is there, you going to cover that a bit later? Or?
Yeah, well, I can cover that for you now. So the question was around, like, if we're asking people to contact us, right? Naturally, in our minds, we want our exact client, our exact target person to reach out and contact us. But naturally, there's going to be other people on the platform that see opportunity, that want to reach out, connect, pitch slap us, sell us other things, right? We know. It happens. So
You could, I think you could trademark that.
I could probably trademark that, yes.
Is that with a P?
It is with a P, just in case you didn't hear me pronounce it properly. Some days it's with a P.
Slackers always go.
Yeah.
Slackers always go with a P.
So, you know, to your point, Tim, I think this is my opinion, right? When we are in business, it comes with a territory. Other people are always going to reach out. Other people are always going to want to, you know, do business with us in whatever. Everyone's working towards their own agenda in business. It's up to us to set the kind of boundaries that we want. So personally for me, I'm very weird, right? I love it when people pitch slap me. Firstly, because I can pitch slap them back and say, actually, you might want a different approach here. But also, in all seriousness, I don't mind it because it shows me what is happening on the platform, and in my context, that's good, and I can teach the opposite of what works. So for me, that's okay. But also, I think it's about your brand and your business and how you want to show up. So I have no issue. If someone wants to pitch slap me, I will just politely disconnect from them, and I might even send them a message, say, thanks so much, not for me, bye. Right? I have no issues doing that, and most of the time I've got a VA or someone that helps me with that as well, so I don't even see it. And so there's that approach. When it comes to bookings, right, so if we're looking at driving people towards a call, does anyone here have some sort of qualification process before they get on a call with someone?
Do they?
Yeah?
Yes.
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 Great. So let your systems do the heavy lifting in filtering some of those people out as well. So if you're finding that you're getting bookings and people trying to pitch yourself, I would look at the questions that you're asking, maybe in your calendar invite, or the way you're positioning that call as well, because that can really help to like filter out a lot of those people. And to be quite frank, if I get someone that, you know, puts in an application for me and I can already tell from the application that they're not a good fit, I won't jump on the call with them. I will politely message them beforehand and I will say, hey, based on your application, I just don't think I'm the right person to support you. here's someone that could help, or here's a free resource, and they're more than happy and they're fine, right? But I identify it up front. So is that helpful, Tim? Is that?
Single there,
Yeah.
Tim will help you.
Yeah. But I think just in my own personal experience, the benefits of being visible outweigh the negatives. There's always a percentage. We can't control that. Even when we're on email, people find our email and cold email us. So it doesn't matter what platform you're on, people are always going to do it. So it's up to you as a business owner to have your boundaries in place and manage that as you go.
I guess for the new guys in the room,
Yep.
like what went through my mind then was, in actual fact, it's quite useful to have those conversations to work out how to use your pitch better
Yeah.
in interviewing them and seeing if they are the right person. So take a call, get on them, practice
Mm-hmm.
the scripts that we've been given, use, and we've made our own, because that can be helpful in your own development. So
Yep.
it's probably okay to take some.
Exactly. I think it comes down to what's the constraint in the business. So if the constraint right now is I don't have enough calls, you've probably got time to take a few more extra calls that might be a little bit on the edge. But if your constraint is time, I've got full boards, I'm only after these specific people, to fill the last few spots, then you might be a little bit more strict. So I think it just depends on the stage of your journey and also the constraint you're trying to solve at that point. The next thing is the featured section. Has anyone heard of this section before on your profile? Yep. Big mistake that I see a lot of people making on LinkedIn is they will simply use this section to maybe highlight a recent post or highlight a post that has got some high engagement. For me, strategically, it's a bit of a wasted opportunity. What I would rather you do in the featured section is, if we're thinking about the concept like we had at the start of this is a landing page, this is a sales page, this is driving people towards that next step, then we want to have two options, or you could just have one, but I like to have two options. One option for people that are in that 3% who are ready to go, who might be ready to book a call and have that conversation. The other option for the people who are not quite ready but need to know a little bit more or want to have some sort of way of building trust and deepening that relationship, and we call that sort of the lead nurture side. So we're all aware of that, and so we want to have a lead nurture side, and we also want to have ready to go right now conversion side at the bottom of the funnel. All right, so for me what that looks like is applying to book a call. They fill out a form. Again, I can filter based on what that form looks like and then have those conversations. Or if they just want to keep following along, they can download Blueprint, and that also takes them through onto my email list where they receive nurture emails and things like that as well. So do we have a couple of ideas in the room? Naturally, book a call would be one for everyone here. And can we think of one other resource that's a little bit more top of funnel for people?
So we're currently promoting an AI white paper type thing.
Okay, great.
As a lead generator, so it could be in there. And the
Yep.
other one I was thinking for us is actually the Blueprint has a business diagnostic link.
Okay, great. Yep, diagnostics work well, assessments, quizzes, those sorts of things are great. Perfect. So the big mistake is we don't want to use content, bit of a wasted opportunity with the real estate we've got available on LinkedIn. We want to make sure that we've got resources in there, and then next step. The next is not using all the real estate on LinkedIn. I do something a little bit different that I haven't seen too many people do on LinkedIn, and I worked this out a few years ago, based on the big premise of keywords on LinkedIn. Now this is just the experience section. Now, typically when we see an experience section, we think about it in a job role, right? We work at a company and we might get promoted internally within that company and add that in there, or if we change roles or change companies, we just put that one up the top. I would say that the experience section is probably one of the most overlooked on LinkedIn, because many people just go, well, it is what it is, right? Can't change it. My humble opinion, yes, you can. And so what we worked out a little while ago is you can actually put in your offers as your parts under your experience section. So the way I think about this is you've got your company company at the top. And let's just say you want to split up your offers. So maybe you are a speaker alongside the work that you do, and you want to have a separate section for speaking and some of the topics you speak about. Maybe you are building multiple boards, and maybe you want to have one of these as an offer for one of the boards at a certain level of business, and maybe there's another group that's a different level of business that you can actually separate in another section as well. So we want to get as specific as we can, and we want to, like on your website where you might have a drop down of services and you kind of list those things down, you can actually do this in your experience section. So what this actually does is when you do the see more buttons here, if you were to expand that, and if you go on my profile, you'll see it all there, you actually get at least another 3,000 characters on LinkedIn that you can complete. And so what that tells LinkedIn is that you have a very complete profile from an algorithm point of view, which helps you to rank higher. And also because you've got more keywords in there around the work that you do, it also helps you to rank higher in the search results. So that's a quick little insight that you won't see many people doing, but it works really, really well. All right, give me a thumbs up if you were going to add some more into our experience section. Yeah, beautiful.
So maybe just for a minute, Amy, transferring that into us, would that be things like IMAP, Strat Pro certified, where we're certified?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. So, I've got clients and they might want to separate their pure coaching and one-on-one that they do, and they might do some corporate training, or they might do some speaking that feels, different or a different market. So they might work with individuals, and coaching them, and then they might work with organisations for the training side. So you can separate them out because they're two different audiences.
And the second part of that is what out of what we've previously put in there, just exclude and dump.
Is that, say that again?
So what have we had there previously?
Delete.
Exclude, don't go down that path as well,
Push it down.
or do you push it down?
Yeah. So in terms of your existing experience, what I would say is most people are only going to read the top part of your experience section. So whatever you're doing currently and whatever you're doing moving forward is what you want to lead with in that section. So you are correct, Tony. The question was, do I just leave my experience section there? Yes, you don't need to do this for all of your roles prior. It's just for your business and looking at the offers that you have currently. That will actually help to maximise that space. And naturally, how the platform works is it will push the others down a little bit. And so it just does become a page view of everything that's relevant for you right now and doesn't take people off on a tangent.
So Tony's asking though, do you blow it away at 50 hectares? No, you still leave it there, but it moves it down, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I'd certainly be shrinking and editing it because you want the algorithms to work off the other
It just moves it down.
Yeah, I mean, your experience is your experience, so you don't want to erase your whole history of the work that you've done, but you just want to focus on what's the most important right now, what's the thing that I want to make sure that people see the most. That's the way to think about it. Okay, and lastly, your profile doesn't mean you have an automatic pipeline. All right, so as much as we have our profile that's there, we can absolutely maximise it to the point of ranking high in the search results. We can really make sure that you've got the right things on there and it flows really well for people when they land on it. But if you put your profile up there and then you forget your login details to LinkedIn and you never visit it for 6 months, it's not going to work the way in which you want it to. So your profile is the starting place, it's your foundation, and then your activity, your content strategy, everything kind of helps your profile to be seen by the right people from there. So they're the sort of 7 key mistakes. Now what I want us to do... Yeah, quick question, Wayne.
In your experience, the people that are searching
Yes.
for profiles, are they mainly sellers or are they mainly buyers? Or sorry, are they people searching to look for people to sell to?
Mm-hmm.
And how many of them are actually looking for someone to help them?
Yeah. So the question was, in terms of people searching, how many of those are actually buyers versus how many people are there just to sell me something, essentially, right? It's really hard. I actually don't know what that number would be or how you would even work that percentage out. What I do know is that the searchers and the people that have intent, just like Google, would be like, if I'm going to go into a search bar, I've got some level of intent around what I'm searching for. So the intent could be, I'm trying to build my pipeline, I'm trying to sell to people, but the other intent is going to be, I'm looking for a solution to my problems. I actually don't know how we would ever figure that out. What we would look at is the profile viewers, and that would be determining of like who's finding our profile, and is it skewed more to the sellers or the buyers? And if it's the wrong way, then we reconfigure the profile to turn it the other way. So that's sort of the, I guess, retrospective kind of way that you can look at it as well. But anything to do with like the search on LinkedIn is more intent-based. And when people are looking at you through your content And the really cool thing with LinkedIn now is they'll actually tell you when you put out a piece of content, they will attribute who has seen that piece of content and then gone and checked out your profile. We never had that data years ago. So what's really cool is that we can actually see, and when you start to share your content, you'll see these spikes, right? And the spikes can mean, I got 100 likes on this post, hooray. Or I got 10 likes on this post, but I had 2 ideal clients that from that post went and checked out my profile. I'll take the 10 like, content every day, right? So this is where people get really tripped up, is because they look at the wrong metrics and they base decisions on that. So I would say it's the profile viewers, and then it's also looking at the content we're putting out and who we're actually driving back to our profile. Is that helpful? Yeah. All right. So let's do some doing. Right? Let's get it done. So we're going to look at your headline as a starting point. And based on what we've talked about, I want you it doesn't have to be perfect, right? I have a rule with anyone that I work with, and Leo knows this really well. 80% perfect is done, right? I don't believe in this magic perfection line that we have out there. If we think it's 80% perfect in our mind, it is done, and we get it out to the market, and the market will tell us the rest of the 20% that we might need to tweak or iterate, okay? So let me give you the framework to set you up for success. With our headline, I don't want you to have to worry about the character count or anything like that right now. We have beautiful AI tools at our disposal that you could punch it straight into and say, I need it to be shorter, I need it to do this, and you can finesse it. But we just want to have a really rough draft to come out of here, the 80% perfect draft. So what I want us to focus on is, what is your doing statement? What is the results, the outcomes, the tangible things, the point of difference that would mean someone landing on your profile would be compelled to look at you further and potentially want to talk to you versus anyone else, right? The more real we can make this with tangible statistics is awesome. So if you have any statistics around, people in my board tend to have an uplift of 300% in their businesses, right? So there's all of these sort of stats that you can look at to really bolster this over time. Then we want to have a look at the search terms. So these are important, but we move them a little bit further down. So if someone in their panic when they couldn't sleep at night was trying to search on LinkedIn for someone to help them, what would they be searching for to find you? And then we want to back it up with credibility and proof. So this might be a certain amount of years in the industry or in business. This might be a quick statement around if you were featured in any publications or articles or anything that's really notable for you and very relevant to your market that's going to make sense for them. So I'm going to give you some thinking time now. Does anyone have any questions before we get started?
Yeah, could you just, sorry, my throat's going.
That's okay.
I talk too much apparently. Yeah, I was waiting for you for the comment.
No one disagreeing with that.
And thank you for the support, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Could you just quickly show us on LinkedIn itself, back on your slides, exactly the segments we're addressing?
Yes. So we can go back and have a look. Here. I'll skip ahead. I've got the lovely Leo as an example here. So we've got sort of the doing statement is improve your business, change your life, right? Rather than having business coach right there. Then we've got...
So that's the header.
Yes, this is the headline. Yep, so this is the visual. So if we look here, we've got the doing statement, then we've got the social proof, the credibility, and we've also got the keywords in there as well of leadership, team development, the things that are important for Leo's particular market and business that he's working with. 220 characters, so it includes the spaces as well. So the challenging part about your headline is actually condensing it down. This is why we write the rough draft and then we can condense it down. All right, so I'll give you 30 more seconds or so just to write and think fast, so we have some time for questions. All right, so we have a few times of some shares and some quick questions. Just wrap up your final point, and it's okay if it's sort of half done or not finished. It's a job for you to do today while you're in the headspace, just to get it done, right? It's always good when we come to these things. You want to get things done when you're in the room because we know what's on the other side of that door when we get out. So, quick share. I'm going to ask for 2 shares, and if I don't get some volunteers, I'm going to told you. Put your hand up. I'm going to find some. If I don't. Yep, Crystal. Yep.
I find the LinkedIn thing is really useful to change and update, so thanks for that. And I think the biggest thing is writing that about you. Mine was all about me.
Yeah.
And so changing that to be about your perfect client and what their pain points and that I really like that section.
Yeah.
I do have one quick question. You know, we to get to how many connections, is it good to have like over 5,000 connections, or is it better to be choosy who you want? Because you get so many people wanting to connect.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you should just accept them or not.
Yeah. So the question, just to repeat for the lovely video people at the back, the question was around profile, people trying to connect and building your network, and what does good look like? Do you need to have 5,000 people that you connect with, or is there a specific number? The good news is, Crystal, is that when LinkedIn actually made their changes, it made it a lot more of an even playing field. So a couple of years ago, I would have said, build your network and make sure you've got, 5,000, or, start to really build it up that way. Now what we're looking at is you want to have quality connections and people in your network. So even if that's 500 connections, you want to make sure that they're relevant to what you're actually speaking about. Because we don't have that gate anymore of LinkedIn actually pushing it out to your followers and a percentage of your audience. New people can still find you through your content, even if you're not connected, right? And so we want to connect with the right kinds of people. I always, again, 80% rule, right? I think there's really the obvious people that you reach out to connect, and you can clearly say there's no fit, no whatsoever, and doesn't take you much to think about just, not accepting those. So absolutely you can do that. I think the rule is that it's your profile, you get to decide. I always think about, if this person maybe doesn't look like an exact ideal client, but who could they know, right? Because ultimately LinkedIn is a professional networking platform at its core. So it's not necessarily like this person has to fit in a particular box for me to connect with them, but it's more around like what would be their 2nd or 3rd degree connections that I could maybe get introduced to. Are they in, similar industries but in different spaces, or what does that kind of look like? And I will always accept those people just because I think there could be some sort of common thread, and naturally if they're interested in what you're doing and your content that you put out, that's always going to be useful for you and helpful for you. So it's more interest-based now than follower-based on LinkedIn. Yeah, is that helpful? All right. 1 or 2 more shares. Wait, yep.
Yeah, thank you for today. I actually thought I had a great profile.
Sorry?
I thought my profile was great.
We all do.
But I've been on LinkedIn since 2007.
Yeah,
and I've
yeah.
spent a lot of time building it. You
Yep.
showed me today, I didn't know some of the stuff existed, like a feature thing, and I'm going, I was looking at what you're talking about, and that must be the paid stuff, and then I found it.
Yeah.
So it's really helpful.
Yep.
And so my share is a lot to do that I
Yeah.
and I look at your profile and go, here's the benchmark. So
Yep.
really helpful.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Good chat. Yeah, Claire.
I've got a question. My profile wasn't too bad, but this was a great opportunity for me just to tweak a few things I've been meaning to do for a while.
Yeah.
But on the featured section, can you or how many things do you reckon you should have on the featured section? And how do you make sure it's in the order that you want people to see it?
Yeah, great question. So in the featured section, how many things can we actually have, and can we actually determine the order? The answer is, I would say maximum 2 is my opinion. Reason being, you've got 2 that are static on the page. So again, we want less resistance. We don't want people to work too hard. And so if you've got multiple, you can have multiple, but people have got to scroll through to find it. They're never really going to look. So 2 up front, or even 1 works really well, because 1, you actually have more real estate to do a bit more of a visual. So if that's more important to you, you can do that. And then you can reorder them. So when you're in the edit bar, you'll see like a couple of little arrows, and then you can reorder which one you want to show up first. Another little quick tip with the featured section that's really useful is, again, just for ease of the other person, don't add a description. Because when you add a description, it means I have to click twice to get the thing. So again, just for like ease and flow, put whatever you need in the title. Don't worry about the description, and if it's a link, they can click straight through.
And just one sort of related question.
Yep.
So if in the bit when you're doing, if it's using the CV part,
Yeah.
can you put links to videos there on LinkedIn just like you take when you've got that platform?
No, that's actually a good place to put them. So you definitely can add just visual media, I would call it. So photos, videos, whatever you like in there. It's actually a good place to do it because usually the people that are further down, like we all know people learn differently and people think differently. Usually, don't like to stereotype, but usually it's the more detail orientated people that'll get down the bottom there. And so if they're the ones that will actually take the effort to click through, and if they leave, then naturally you want that resource to maybe head them back another direction. So yeah, you can do that there. Perfect.
Where was that, sorry?
In the experience section, anything you're putting in, like with an offer or anything that you're talking about, you can add any kind of visual media down below as well. Great, so if there's no further questions, I think that's time. Thanks again, everyone, for your energy, participation, and I hope you enjoyed it.